We'd like to welcome our next presenter. We have Natalie Gardam, and Natalie is from the Faculty of Education. And Natalie's going to talk to us about her research in VET Voices of Success, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander student experiences. Thank you.
Thanks, Alison. Good morning, all. As Alison said, I'm Natalie, and I'm here in the Faculty of Education. So, thanks. I'd just like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, so the traditional custodians of the lands, rivers and sea. Thanks. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my research, then I'll move on to talk about my method, and then I'll talk about the analysis, and then I'll talk about the themes, and then finally I'll just let you know what my next steps are in this process. So my professional interest as an experienced VET educator and leader at TAFE New South Wales draws on observations over many years concerning the relatively poorer completion rates of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. So addressing this has evolved as a priority in our workplace and thus the motivation of my research in this context. So I want to acknowledge my position as a non-Indigenous female researcher. I'm an outsider to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, yet I'm an insider into the VET sector. The photo you see on the screen is a picture of me at a place called Yarramundi in New South Wales. I was on a cultural experience where I was able to use traditional methods to leave my handprint on a tree. So, what's this research about? The research study is in the field of Indigenous education, and specifically the study investigated completions, participation and pathways in VET for young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. As we know, education is success is a right for all Australians, and by completing a VET qualification, it can significantly enhance young people's life opportunities. Thank you. Completion rates in the VET sector for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, they're concerning as they are low when we compare them with non-Indigenous students. Now, there has been many policy reforms over many years by the government to increase participation into the VET sector, but despite this, the completion rates are still at 13% behind our non-Indigenous peers. So while there's been a lot of research in this space, and there are things that are happening in VET programs around Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, these reoccurring themes are culture, partnerships, community and support services in what would promote successful experiences for students. What is not clear, though, is how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students view success at VET, and this suggests that there are aspects of education that students could input into through voice. Thank you. So the research question is on the screen. How do Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students experience success in VET and why? The two sub-questions relate to cultural considerations, and then the second one relates to how students have a voice, a continuing voice within education. Oh. Sorry, thank you. I think we just skipped one. Okay, so how the research study was carried out. So the methodological approach chosen for the research was qualitative, as it actually aligns with answering the research question, and it's widely used in studying social problems. The qualitative approach is commonly used in education research to study the experience of teachers or students. I used concepts of voice and worldviews. I employed narrative inquiry to capture the lived experiences of these students. By listening to and collaborating with an Aboriginal community members through an advisory group, I ensured the study was respectfully cultural and respectful. So Aboriginal facilitators conducted the yarning sessions at 3 campuses. One was Mount Druitt, one was Campbelltown, and one was at Kingswood. This was in New South Wales in 2024, by the end of 2024. Now, thank you. So I'll now talk about how the data was analysed. So I analysed the data using the 6-phase reflexive thematic analysis process as Braun and Clark described it. Thematic analysis, it's a method for identifying and analysing and reporting patterns within data. So the thematic analysis was chosen due to its theoretical flexibility, and the ontological position of relativism informs the research study, and reality depends on the interpretation, the researcher's interpretation. The research assumes a constructivist epistemology where knowledge is constructed, and the research has an experiential orientation focusing on the meaning and experiences of the students in their education setting. So thematic analysis was appropriate for the small sample size. There was 21 students that engaged, and the narrative method and the yarning sessions for the data collection. So finally, reflexive thematic analysis was an appropriate analytical technique to answer the research question, and in particular it allowed a focus on the student voice. So 4 themes were developed through the analysis. I'll talk about theme 1 first. So theme 1 is voice in education. So students need a voice in their education, and they know how they want to learn, and culture plays a big part in that. Life experience for these students underpins their view on education. So for example, their past experience of exclusion by the education system previously, and they may also be first in family to attend VET. Students' voice in their learning on culture included feelings of cultural safety in a class, and students have a voice in class and want to share their cultural identity through an inclusive and safe environment. Now, the voice of the student on learning, students want a voice in their learning because they know best how they learn. They preferred a verbal learning style to a written one. One student actually quoted, "Over-relying on people reading, and not everyone has that as their main learning strength." So it was important for students to reflect that they didn't like a lot of reading. Students value having a voice in their class. The voice of elders was something that came up. The elders' voice is essential in education, and we really need to find ways that we can incorporate that into our education and classes. And the final one around voice in education is around an advisory panel. This is something the groups brought up, that as a form of governance to facilitate discussions, for example, around barriers to participation, and it needs to be also at that local community level. Theme 2 was around connectedness in learning. So Aboriginal people's connection to each other and the need to help others is very strong in the data. Students spoke about being in an Aboriginal cohort class using the words, "I feel a lot better, I feel more relaxed, it's a healthy environment, I feel included, we're comfortable with each other, I'm included with the group and I'm welcomed." So those kind of things showed how much that they were connected to each other and felt safe in that class. Another one that came under connectedness in learning is the role model. Community is important to students, particularly the younger generation. Completing and showing our kids that it's never too late was a quote from a student. Another quote was, "The kids in the community that look up to you. You don't see many black fellas going on to do courses like this, let alone young men." And she was talking about a health course. So she was saying how fantastic it is to see a black man in a room full, everybody, all the others were females, one male in a whole group of females doing a health course. So that's why she commented on that. Community and being a role model in community. They have a voice in the community on their experience at TAFE, so they're able to go back to the community and talk to them about what TAFE was for them and what TAFE did for them. This is the voice that they can actually take back to community. In theme 3, it's about success is more than personal. So it's not just for them, it's also for their community. So completing the course is a very personal success, and students have goals related to jobs and careers. Students had given this a lot of thought and understood their industry and the requirements to move into the next role. One student talked about, it's the pathway, that's what we're looking for, it's that career opportunity. Achievements were another one that came up within this, and students have pride in their achievements. It shows through the data in words like, this is a big step, this is significant achievement, I'm really proud of myself, and I have never been to TAFE before. Even one student talked about, I wish my mum was still alive because I'd like her to see me at TAFE. So for them, they were very proud of their achievements. Community within this one was all about, the students talked about personal growth in the community and their contributions. And one student said, to grow and eventually develop more skills to make me the best person in my community. So their focus was very community strong. The last theme is around customising the experience in place. So what makes a really good experience for students? So students had varied experiences at TAFE and were able to call out the differences, what they saw was different. Teachers make a big difference for students, and they create the classroom environment which needs to feel welcoming for students. So a student quote is, if you go to a place you don't feel right, you won't want to go back. It just shows, I think like the last speaker was thinking, there's a lot of common themes through these ones also. You need to make students feel welcome. The teacher is one contributing factor to the student experience, quite a big one, but other factors are they did appreciate having Aboriginal teachers as they could talk about culturally sensitive issues, and they did feel like that the Aboriginal teacher understood them culturally, made them feel culturally safe. Having an Aboriginal teacher and actually being in an Aboriginal cohort class really created the ultimate experience for students. We can't do this all the time, but that is the best experience. Course design was something else that students talked about a lot because there are barriers and enablers. Students talked about the fact, if you ran the course during the daytime, I have a job, I wouldn't be able to come. I'd have to give up my job and I would lose my money to live. So there were very sort of, normal aspects of daily life that impacts on them studying too. So the nighttime courses for some students were extremely important to have those. Facilities and resources, again, there was barriers and enablers, and they talked about their varied experience at campuses. So if they were doing health, one campus might have had a lot better health facilities than another campus did. So they really noticed those differences. Support was something that came out a lot for students, which needs to be customised, because students talked about the support they required, and a lot of the time it extended beyond education and beyond the classroom. The support actually helped students turn up to TAFE and to study. So for example, one student said, the support is financial, it's social, it's spiritual, it's holistic. That's the kind of approach that we need. So sometimes students said, if they didn't have the bus money or the fares to get to TAFE, they actually can't turn up. So if you can't turn up, you're not going to get educated. If you've got housing issues, you're not going to get educated. So a lot of things do extend beyond education and what we can do at TAFE, but we can put people in touch with certain services. We can recognise that these things are issues for students.
2 minutes.
Thank you. So, I'll wrap it up with this final section, which is around the themes and how they are interwoven and connected. So I start with voice in education as the research focused on hearing from the students, and the students having a voice in their education is quite empowering. If you think about how they do this and with whom, the right people to bring together are teachers, Aboriginal support officers, the community and students. And you'll see those in the circle diagrams, in the circles in the diagram up there. Setting up an advisory body or a panel as a tool to facilitate engagement in discussion on education is important. Connectedness in learning stems from students' positive comments on being together in learning. Students like listening to each other's stories. Teachers and students will connect and build on this to provide a good experience. It flows into the community with the connectedness to the elders to participate in education with students. Now, success is more than personal for students, and it showed that my personal success is for me, but it's also important for me to complete my studies, but what's also important is the community success. And how they do that is contributing through a model where they work in a job that is community-based and they be a role model. Customising the experience in place, it's interwoven throughout all the other themes, and the experience for students can depend on the location. Customisation of the experience links with the theme of success for students and also helps to create that connectedness, which was another theme. This means that whatever place students are at and they're learning, it needs to be customised. And embedded throughout that is culture. Culture played a big part for students when they talked about their experience. So culture is embedded throughout that. So thanks. My next steps are putting together some recommendations for the vet sector and for TAFE out of these findings, taking those recommendations then to get feedback from the student participants, and also taking those recommendations to get feedback from the Aboriginal Advisory Group. So thank you. Appreciate you listening today. Oh, you've got one. Okay. Don't have this
Thanks,
one.
Natalie. Awesome. That was a very thorough presentation.
Thank you, Alison.
Yeah, comments, questions from the audience. Kennedy.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for quite a good presentation on VET. I'm quite interested in development and education as well for Aboriginal communities. Mm-hmm. We just wanted to find out from your experiences, do you feel like the success of the students after completing the courses, did it have any effect or any influence on the community, on especially talking about from the other speaker who was talking about low enrollment for Aboriginal students?
Yes. So the effect on the community is once students have studied at TAFE and then got qualified, they go out and get jobs in their community. So often they're health jobs, practitioners, that kind of work. So they're working with their Aboriginal community. A lot of students did talk about the fact that they would actually like to go to regional areas to work. Oh, thank you. They'll go to regional areas to work to be able to, sorry, just lost my train of thought there. They want to go to regional areas to support their community and work there. So yes, and also one of the things they also do is if they've had a good experience at TAFE, they go back into the community and encourage them to come to TAFE. So students just won't look at a website or go, I'm going to do that. It's a big step for a lot of Aboriginal people to turn up to TAFE. They've had very bad experience in the past because our Western frames of education excluded them in the past, so they don't know what to expect. If high school was no good for them, they're not interested in studying anymore. So it does take the students who complete to go back into community and go, you know what, it was a great experience. I want my sister to come, I want my brother to come. They're the kinds of words that they talk about when you talk to them. They'll go and tell everybody else to come. And I think that last presentation, or the first one, no, it was the last one, mentioned about going to the football and things like that. And they said TAFE should go to the football, have a stand there, you know, and encourage people and tell them what they've got. So there's all those connections which are very community. So thanks for the question, Kennedy.
Good answer, thank you. Any other comments and questions?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just have a curiosity.
Yep.
What other ages are the students that you did in your case study?
Very good one. They ranged from very young, so they were all over 18, so I'd say about 20-ish to maybe even 60-ish.
Yeah, okay.
Quite a range. In one class, there was a student, their grandmother was in the class.
Wow.
Yeah, which was great because that showed community connection, and she was quite afraid to be able to come, and it was great. Her grandmother was in the class, and so her grandmother would also support her in the class and support her with her homework as well as a little bit, I think, maybe. So yeah, it ranged. It's a broad range.
Great.
Yeah.
And of that, you were saying there's more females than males?
In the health sector, studying health, there's more females. I did do some construction, but that didn't go so well with the males. They didn't seem to understand. They didn't want to turn up and things like that. So it was a bit difficult with a lot of the males to get them to come, but there were other areas of education and other areas that I did where there were a few males. So they weren't all females. Probably it skewed a little bit more towards just over 50% of females. Yeah.
That's great. And just on top of that,
Yes.
did any of them consider going to university after?
I interviewed these students through a facilitated method of yarning with Aboriginal facilitators, and I was there at the time. They're not sure whether they are. There was one that was a real standout that definitely would. She'd already done about 10 courses at TAFE, so which was quite interesting in itself, but she was quite remarkable. So I think the experience, if it's positive and they feel good, they were all going to complete. They were that good, they were all going to complete. So they were looking forward to their working. They didn't talk a lot about going to university, the pathway. Yeah. The further study quite concerned me, and I think that'll be one recommendation that'll probably come out of it is there is not enough done around that to go, well, there's a next step, which is university. I think they've just gotten over going to TAFE, let alone going to university. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a great opportunity for students if they take that first step at TAFE.
Definitely.
You make more money as a tradie these days anyway.
Yeah, maybe so, that's true. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.